finally, I'm sorry, then within that, cultural competency and anti-racist pedagogy are being used interchangeably, and the literature on them are vastly different. Cultural competency being more compliance related, and anti-racist pedagogy being much more relational in work. So I think that needs to be worked out. And finally, as some of my other colleagues have noted, that there absolutely has to be a discussion of how we include part-timers in the work. They are the majority of our workforce in the community colleges. And as it stands, there is not enough money in the budget that actually allows them to come up to speed and to create time in which to do this work, and yet they're going to be evaluated on it. I have other comments that I'm happy to submit in writing, but those are the 4 I wanted to highlight. So I thank you for all of your work and for the little bit of extra time to get through my 4 points.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
There are still several more, yes.
Okay, we're going to get through those then.
Okay. Next is Ray Sanchez. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Ray Sanchez, faculty member, Madera Community College. We should have serious concerns over the proposed regulatory action that's amending Title V, the California Code of Regulations, tying concepts to philosophical assertions that are only fairly nascent in the literature and are really still heavily debated in the academy and society at large. To evaluation and tenure review seems unwarranted to me, and frankly, in a strange sort of way, reminiscent of a Berkeley loyalty oath. Now, cultural competency and the other aspects that we're discussing here is wonderful on the face of it. But what I'm bringing up is the theoretical underpinnings that manifest themselves in our campuses from the literature. So will professional development include open, transparent dialogue regarding the claims and assertions found in the popular and published literature? Or must we accept these theories as unchangeable absolute fact? So here's some definitions found in section 52.5.10. This is part D. Anti-racism and anti-racist refers to policies and actions that lead to racial equity. Okay, that's the definition. What I want you to notice is that it's not racial equality, but racial equity. So the presuppositions and the worldview of this new anti-racism and equity is one that assumes, for example, that all grades should be equal. A laudable goal, one every employee on our campuses is shooting for in some way or another. But racism is claimed to be the single cause that prevents it. Again, I'm emphasizing this new critical equity and anti-racism, which assumes there's no other factor for the variation we see in grades or persistent rates or transfer rates or any other disparity in outcomes among our students. Or at the very least, we're not allowed to suggest any other factor for disparities. There's no consideration of background knowledge from K-12 or familial issues. I mean, just for example, considering whether a student of ours is in a healthy family structure, supported by reading and studying and learning. So in the new critical equity and anti-racism worldview, racism is the all and monocausal factor in disparate incomes. In other words, there's one factor.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
So I think we need nuance and comprehensive data analysis and a willingness to look at all factors and causes for student success. And I just wonder, does anyone in our system question the assumptions undergirding the work of Kimberly Crenshaw or Richard Delgado or Ibram Kendi? Or are their claims and theories beyond critique? Or are they established fact on the order of E equals MC squared? Now, growth mindset and a victim mindset are mutually exclusive. And as you heard, my last name is Sanchez, but I'm not a victim. I'm not marginalized. I had a very troubled
3-minute time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Next, we have Connie Gutierrez. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Good afternoon, President Haynes, Board of Governors, and esteemed faculty and friends and colleagues that are listening in, and our Chancellor's Office staff. I'm here to express my support in favor of the DEIA competencies and criteria related to employee evaluation and tenure review. Now more than ever, we need to align ourselves to create the ecosystems of support for our students throughout the state. We need to ensure that they are supported both inside and outside the classroom in our respected campuses for their diverse and intersectional identities that they bring. As a system and a collective, we should especially want our students to be learning from faculty served by classified staff and administrators on our campuses who share a commitment and demonstrate the commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. This move to include these competencies in the evaluation and tenure process must begin now. Think of the legacy this board will have in supporting this motion. Even though this is just the first read, it is important to consider this and keep moving this work forward. I applaud the effort of the committee, our Chancellor's Office leaders, and countless others who have worked tirelessly to get this work done. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Next, we have Eric Kalyamagi. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Good afternoon, President Haynes, Vice President Costa, members of the board, and Chancellor Oakley. My name is Eric Kalyamagi. I am the president of the Community College Association, the higher education affiliate of the California Teachers Association. Ed Code 70901 begins, as you heard earlier, by saying, quote, "The Board of Governors shall provide leadership and direction in the continuing development of the California community colleges." However, the very next sentence of this paragraph, which you did not hear earlier, goes on to say, quote, "The work of the Board of Governors shall at all times be directed to maintaining and continuing to the maximum degree permissible local authority and control in the administration of the California community colleges," unquote. This is your mandate. The Community College Association believes that several statements in the proposed regulations relating to faculty evaluation and professional development are a mandatory subject of bargaining and should not be included in the final regulations. The issues addressed by these statements are logically and reasonably related to an enumerated term and condition of employment. In addition, issues addressed by these statements are of such concern to both management and employees that conflict is likely to occur. And we believe that the mediatory influence of collective negotiations is the appropriate means of resolving these conflicts. With regard to employee evaluations, the Public Employee Relations Board, known as PERB, has consistently held that a number of matters related to evaluation procedures must be negotiated. A school employer cannot determine these matters unilaterally, but must provide the exclusive representative of its employees notice and an opportunity to bargain them. In Government Code 3543.2a, procedures to be used for the evaluations of employees is expressly listed as such a term and condition of employment. PERB has held consistently in these cases. For example, in one regarding Compton Community College in 1990, PERB reasoned that student grievance procedures were negotiable. And then Rio Hondo Community College District in 2013, PERB
You have
held
30
that
seconds
the
remaining.
of evidence an employer relies on were negotiable, because in both cases, they were a condition of employment. CCA shares the system's interests in promoting a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive community college system. We believe that maintaining the employer's obligation to negotiate does not significantly abridge the Chancellor's Office freedom to exercise its mission. And we encourage the Board of Governors to reject the portions of this proposal that improperly interfere with local control of negotiable items. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have 3 more hands raised at this time. Adrian Gray, you have control of your mic and can address the board.
Good afternoon, President Haynes, Vice President Costa, all members, and Chancellor Oakley. I'm Adrian Gray, trustee at West Valley Mission Community College District, past president of the CCCT and past Community College League board chair. As one of the co-chairs of the trustee DEIA work group, and on their behalf, I add the trustee voice in support of the proposed regulatory changes to incorporate DEIA competencies into employee evaluation and tenure review. To frame the overall intent of these proposed changes, as already mentioned in initial comments, I recall to you the Title V, subsection 51201 Statement on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion that this board approved in 2020. The changes proposed today ensure that your historic affirmation of DEIA for our system as a whole progress beyond aspiration to reality at all California community college districts and colleges by encouraging equity-centered practices by all employees, practices that have been shown through extensive research to improve the learning environment and experience and success of all the students whose lives we touch. We understand this is only a start, understanding that both professional development and negotiation with bargaining units will be required to fully realize these goals. Trustees have taken active part in developing these proposed changes, starting with trustee representation on the statewide EEO Diversity Advisory Committee, on the statewide DEI Implementation Task Force, and in 8 multi-hour evaluation and tenure review subgroup sessions that commenced in March of last year. And that included robust input and dialogue from all major system stakeholder associations, trustees, CEOs, academic senate, student senate, human resources, FAC, and others, including members of this board, with Chancellor's Office legal guidance throughout. Acknowledgements to the following trustees who, along with myself, took part in these multi-year deliberations: Marissa Perez, Mark Evilsizer, Nan Gomez-Heisberg, Linda Waugh, and Cynthia Napoli-Abella Reese. Trustees strongly support these proposed regulations and are excited and proud to see them advanced to your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Latoya Jackson-Lainez. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Good afternoon, President Haynes, Vice President Costa, Chancellor Oakley, Vice Chancellor Gonzalez, and members of the members of the Board of Governors. My name is Latoya Jackson, Director of Diversity, EEO, and Title IX for Sierra College, and I'm also part of the statewide EEO Advisory Committee. I would like to express my support for this very important system change to the regulations. I would, however, like to ensure that we do not miss the opportunity to focus on professional development of the managers who would be leading and evaluating faculty and staff on DEIA. Equity is a journey, and none of us have arrived or are fully competent. If managers are early on in their journey, I want to ensure that we do not do more harm than good. As we know, many times employees leave managers and not necessarily the institution. And to ensure that we are really moving the needle, we as managers need to be equipped, and equity and anti-racism work needs to begin with managers to support all employees in this work. The responsibility is not solely on the shoulders of faculty and staff, and I'm glad to hear from Greg that this is in the works. I want to ensure that we just don't lose sight of this. Thank you, everyone who has worked so very hard on these efforts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Lacey Barnes. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Good afternoon, President Haynes, Board of Governors, Chancellor Oakley. Thank you for this time. My name is Lacey Barnes. I'm the Senior Vice President of CFT, a union of educators and classified professionals. CFT is comprised of 140 local unions, 48 of which are unions at community colleges and represent 41% of the 116 colleges governed by your body. CFT is committed to promoting high-quality education and to securing conditions necessary to providing the best services for California's students. This, of course, includes issues of diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, thus our interest in this agenda item. CFT is not a stranger to this type of work and engaged its own process in 2017, which culminated in CFT's Racial Equity Task Force report. Our report identified 4 priorities and 21 goals that began CFT's RSJ agenda. President Jeff Freitas appointed me lead to our efforts. I am happy to report that we successfully launched our agenda this last weekend with our Organizing for Racial and Social Justice in Education Leadership Conference in San Francisco. As part of our work, we surveyed our locals, including the 48 college locals, to learn of professional development opportunities or needs around issues of racial and social justice, including DEIA issues. We learned our locals are in very different places. Some locals have more developmental needs than others. Some are readily poised and engaged and pivot quickly around these areas, while others are still struggling to have the basic dialogue around DEIA issues. Why is this important to you? Well, I fear that some of our colleges will not be able to effectively engage or carry out the faculty evaluation changes around DEIA as meaningfully intended by the board's currently written and proposed Title V changes. Additionally, it is worth reiterating that the board, before moving any proposed changes, clearly understand and honor the
30
current
seconds
and
remaining.
differing contexts in which colleges are functioning currently around RSJ and DEIA issues. The best intentions can create, at best, unintended consequences, and at worst, detrimental or the exact opposite effects of our intentions. CFT would like to see the board's efforts succeed on this very important issue, not just for our colleges, but for our students, our communities, and our society at large. I respectfully request that you give serious consideration and concerns as outlined to the written letter offered collectively by the 3 union presidents and the verbal comments of my union siblings. As Senior Vice President of CFT,
You have reached your 3-minute time limit.
And we stand ready to assist.
Thank you.
We have one more hand up. Greg Nelson, you have control of your mic and can address the board.
My apologies, that was a mistake.
Board President, there are no further hands raised.
So thank you for all of the comments. We're now going to go to our board members with any comments or questions. Vice President Costa.
Thanks, Pam. I want to thank everybody for the work in this item, all of our staff and the public for their comment. It was very illuminating to me. I do just want to speak to the text itself and something that was raised that I think is a really relevant point by staff, that I think, that in this process, the Chancellor's Office is really creating a floor, not a ceiling, for districts to follow. And I do believe that the language in section 53601 could be a little bit more specific to that point. I think that's the intention, and I agree with it, which is, we're laying a basic map, but if people want to exceed that, great, we would love that. I do just want to give the staff an opportunity to respond to this question of process. We have a lot of different kind of bodies in our system that meet and hear policy. Especially on the issue of inclusion, I feel like we need to talk about our process. So with that, I just want to hear from the staff their thoughts.
Deputy Chancellor, I'm happy to take a first stab at this one. Thank you for the question, Vice President Costa. The subgroup that worked on the regulations was a subgroup of the overarching implementation task force. And so we pulled members directly from that table. That being said, What we have done in the time subsequent from the launch of the committee is meet a handful of times with our 3 labor partners who are representative on our consultation council. We've also invited, as was noted in some of the public comments, invited some of our campuses along with their union leaders to come and share information and their perspective on how this process has worked at their local campuses. Part of this is also about fully appreciating that the focus of the committee was to try to understand what actions the Chancellor's office should take relative to supporting the implementation of the task force recommendation. So we didn't start the committee with the intent necessarily to write regulations. That was ultimately the action that the committee landed at in terms of really wrestling with what is the best action. Is it just updating and tweaking some language, or is it actually really putting in something a little bit more robust? The committee landed at a more robust decision point. I think the other piece of this is that as we continue to move forward, we will continue to meet with our labor leaders that are part of consultation. We bring all of this to consultation for feedback where we absolutely receive significant feedback from our members. And then we'll continue to have those conversations as we go forward. So I think structurally, we included the folks who were at the implementation work group table initially, because this is a subgroup. This was not a new group. It was a subgroup of that committee, and then have tried to reach out outside of that table to make sure that we are having those conversations at the appropriate time and space. And then we'll continue those conversations as we move forward, and then have included consultation council, which is a critical part of our consultative process. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you, Marty. I'll only add as a part of that, Vice President Costa, that it also went to our EEO DAC, which is our statewide committee. There are 40 other stakeholders that are at the table. What is important to note here is this does begin our public comment period. So I want to make sure that anyone that feels that they were not brought along understand that this is the moment to come together to give feedback to improve these regulations. One thing that we learned after presenting at the Consultation Council is that after this first reading, there is a need to just bring everyone together. We want to make sure that by your second reading, everyone feels that they have been included, that they had an opportunity to improve. But this is not about a delay tactic. This is about improving the regulations in front of us with urgency. And so you can expect that from our staff.
Tom, where did you go? You took your hand.
I anticipated being called on, so I lowered my hand as quickly as possible.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question for this. Following up on that, actually, is what is the Chancellor's Office opinion of the union leaders' apparently strong belief that these issues need to be negotiated locally?
I'm happy to jump in on that one and offer my first opinion. I will just say candidly, I have really appreciated the conversations with our 3 union leaders. They have given some very constructive and important feedback for the regulations, much of which we are taking, well, all of which we are taking under advisement, and much of which will inform continued adaptations to the regulations. And I think I would just say unequivocally, I completely agree that these once regulations are passed, the conversations have to be at the local level and they have to be locally negotiated. I think that is consistent across most of our regulations. Anything that relates to working conditions has to be locally negotiated. This doesn't preclude that, as we've heard in previous conversations, and even as we heard in the conversations around the campus policing, campus climate regulations. So I think we are very aware of and attentive to and in agreement with that is a requirement. I think one of the things that we are constantly trying to manage, particularly as we think about the state setting the minimum, or this board, I should say, setting the minimum conditions here, is not leveraging our students for bargaining chips, or the student experience for bargaining chips at the bargaining table, right? And so I think we have to really think about both what are the minimum standards we're trying to put in place, and then what is that supplemental and ongoing support that is needed, which we've heard consistently, and again, we would strongly agree with, professional development, that this is not a destination, this is a journey, and we want to keep pushing in that direction.
Thank you. Member Aguinaldo and then Member Shabazian.
Thank you, President Haynes. I struggled with what to say on this item because I had a giant list of wise words that I wanted to impart, but thankfully I think Marty captured 99% of them, and everybody has been requoting her on the whole optional is not equitable saying. So I think what I'd like to focus on is simply that there is another saying circulating out there in the DEIA world, which is we want to meet somebody where they are. And if our true intention is to do that, to do what Marty was saying with respect to scaffolded growth, the evaluations and 10-year review makes meeting you where you are much more powerful. It allows professional development and required training to be that much more meaningful because it actually has a starting point as a point of reference. So overall, I'm just very excited to see these types of regulations added to the Title V scheme. I think it fits so nicely, and it gives me that nostalgic feeling when we were first drafting the DEIA statement and it went into Title V, that sense of this is so natural. And the fact that it is still a work of continuous improvement. We went back and revised the DEIA statement because it didn't fit the first time. There were a few tweaks that still needed to be made. And I think that's exactly the spirit that needs to be captured in this first reading. So I just wanted to say thank you to the task force and thank you to all the stakeholders for this incredibly robust discussion. I look forward to how this is going to continue to, in Jesse Ryan's words, meaningfully evolve, given that we have so much of this work still in front of us. So thank you very much, everyone. I look forward to seeing what is brought to us at the second reading.
Member Shabazian.
Thank you. Special thanks to the Chancellor's Office staff and the task force for your enduring work on this, and especially to the Student Senate for being bold and raising this issue in their plan of action. At this point, I'd ask that the criteria here be supported by professional development and resources. And one thing that comes to mind in terms of the resources needed to address accessibility, we do have this ZTC program, and if there's an opportunity to align that program with some of the accessibility goals here, maybe that's something worth talking about. I also appreciate the commitment from the Chancellor's Office to take the time for other groups to provide input, and just looking at the written comments that were submitted, it does seem like there are some specific recommendations that are worthy of discussion. With that said, I am looking forward to the second reading of this in the coming months, and it's a moment where we need to rise to the challenge, and I look forward to being on the right side of history on this and a model for other institutions.
Member Hall.
I've read most of what we were given, but I've got to go back and reread a few of the things. So just two questions right now. I did hear concerns on the public comments from part-time faculty, so I'm not clear what the issue is with them, but I wonder if you could address what you think it is, and I'll speculate. Is it the proposal requires some amount of time or attendance at classes or something? I'm not sure. And does that conflict with part-time faculty time demands? If that's part of the second reading, we can do it then, but if you have something to say about it now, I'd like to hear about it, just because I hadn't heard that before. And then secondly, my second question is, what does tenure review mean? Does that mean that if you've been a recognized professor for some period of time, but you haven't gotten the DEI training, or you haven't shown a history of DEI commitment, that your tenure's challenged? So I'm not sure what all that means.
Sure. I saw Cheryl lean in. So Cheryl, I'd love to pass it to you, and then I'm happy to play cleanup.
Thank you for the question. I'm going to address first your question about what's tenure review, and It's part of the process specific to faculty member and unique to faculty members in education. And specifically for us, it's a 4-year process in the California community process or community colleges, where really we're probationary for that 4-year period. And we're evaluated at least annually, depending on district policies, could be more often, and what our bargaining agreements say. But it's through that essential, growth and a little bit of proving process that we ultimately achieve tenure. And at that point are deemed, to be permanent employees of the system and are evaluated a little bit less frequently. For most of us, I think it's about 3 years. And so it really, that's a high tension period for employees. And there have been challenges for some, particularly faculty of color who are entering our system and being expected to demonstrate teaching practices that are more reminiscent of older, less culturally competent approaches and pedagogies, and are being harmed by that. And so, asking that managers, I appreciate the comment about that managers, be trained in cultural competence and what's expected in specific positions, that having those kinds of trainings would be really important so that folks can really shine in today's pedagogies and expect it to grow and be supported in that growth. To use today's approaches to instruction that truly are inclusive, much more so than past practices. Does that help a little bit with your second question?
Yeah, but on the tenure review, no, I don't think it does help on the second question, but on the tenure review, and again, I don't know the process. Once you're tenured, is there a review process you go through? Are you evaluated after 5 years or so, or once you're permanent, you're in like Flynn?
It's usually every 3 years, or at least that's what I'm familiar with, is I'm still evaluated as a faculty member every 3 years. And honestly, if there were cause for concern, I could be evaluated more frequently than that, depending on what my union and my administrators have said. But it's pretty typical. 3 years is our common evaluation. It makes it a little bit easier for our evaluators to manage the workload because there's not so many of us to evaluate annually, but you've passed that proving point and now are really in that process of continual improvement. I mean, really at that point, it is about continually, evolving as a professional in this field. But I'm going to quickly address your first question as well. And that's, I heard the concerns about part-time, and Wendy mentioned it relative to the expectation that part-time faculty in particular be compensated. And I heard the questions from our colleague at American River. And I think that's really stemming from, if we're talking about having this growth-minded expectation that we set the expectation and faculty are supported through professional learning to, continually grow. Sometimes that's a challenge for our part-time faculty because they are spread thin, sometimes and often teaching at many campuses, commuting between campuses, managing workloads and expectations across multiple campuses. That can be challenged, not only in terms of time, but then in terms of potential compensation or lack of compensation, which is the problem. And so, I think our intent all along was to really, support full and part-time faculty in this effort, as well as full and part-time employees of every group. And compensation would need to be handled locally, but it would really be an expectation that all employees truly be supported in their professional growth, particular to this DEIA area.
Just to follow up, but as a practical matter, what does that mean when you say you'll support part-time faculty?
I think it would really mean that if a faculty member was, identified as having areas of growth and professional learning opportunities, arranged or offered, that they'd be compensated for their time to participate in those opportunities.
I see. Okay.
A couple of things I want to just piggyback on, and thank you so much, Cheryl, because that was perfect. Those are the locally negotiated terms that keep coming up. The compensation package or not for part-time faculty participating in any sort of professional development is locally negotiated. Also, if a part-time faculty member, which is very common, works at multiple campuses in order to cobble together a full-time paycheck, then they may have different criteria at every campus that they work at, right? And different expectations at every campus that they work at, because it is all locally negotiated. That's not a slight. That is just a statement of fact. This is what part-time faculty are up against and why they may need additional support, and or why at the local level there needs to be some advocacy for what that looks like in terms of the locally negotiated requirements or expectations or supports for part-time faculty. So that is a difficult one to put into regulation, as is things like PD and others, other than signaling where we can, this is required and this is what we want to have in place, because all of those conditions are locally negotiated. I also want to just make use one example from what Cheryl noted around the tenure review process. This is a good example of why the committee really advocated for that self-reflection piece in the regulations, because often the evaluators may or may not be evaluating based on current practice or based on DEI related expectations for what they want to see within their departments. And so making sure that there is space for and an expectation for individuals to be able to express their own perspective on their performance and where they have growth is an important component. It's not the end all be all, it's an important component to the evaluation process to ensure that our individuals, our new faculty and individuals of color, socioeconomic status, first-time gen, college folks have equitable voice. I think we all can recall the videos that we've seen throughout the pandemic of students having unfortunate experiences within classrooms nationally, ours as well. And we have to acknowledge that there is a perpetual power differential when we get into a classroom and when we are in some of these disciplines and environments in our higher ed system. Every industry, ours is no exception. And so this is part about making sure that we are trying to have a balance, checks and balance in that power differential.
So is there funding available for, I mean, if you've got to compensate all the part-time employees, I mean, what kind of funding are you envisioning for that?
Right, I'll hold on that question in just in terms of time, but what I would signal, Member Hall, is that there are different funding streams that can be used. I think this is about, again, that local implementation and trying to figure out how we identify the funding streams and guidance that can be leveraged for this purpose, including things like Faculty Flex, which are in regulations and provide funding for faculty professional development.
Right, and then one real fast, I do not mean to take up all the time. President Haynes, I'm sorry.
It's okay, go ahead.
Okay, who, and again, maybe it's defined in the thing and I haven't seen it yet. Who are the evaluators?
Those are locally defined. Those are locally negotiated. They may say we want only other faculty peers to evaluate us. It may be administrators or staff members, has to be someone at your level or above, right? There's lots of variation in terms of how it's decided who evaluates whom.
Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. Seeing no further questions, then and I don't think that we have any more public members of the public who would like to speak on that matter. I know I'll be corrected in just a second if that's not the case.
So we do actually have one public member's hand up, but it is somebody that had already made a comment. Would you like to hear what they have to say in addition?
Is there a way, we're so far over time, is there a way for them to put something in the chat and we make certain that the board members get it?
They can't do that, but I can give them our info email and they can definitely send it in via email.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Not a problem.
Okay, so hearing no further public comment with the exception of what we've just heard, this hearing is closed. And so this concludes the public hearing on this matter. Obviously, folks can comment during this period, and I would encourage them to do so. We are still behind, but we're now at our information items. The first one is 6.2, which is the Vision for Success Spotlight, the lessons from the Chancellor's Office Student-Centered Listening Tours. And we have Deputy Chancellor Gonzalez and Executive Vice Chancellor Navarrete presenting.
Thank you, President Haynes, and thank you, board members. We've expedited all of our presentations, so you might hear us as we cover your informational items, extensive written items, extensive PowerPoints, extensive attachments. So I will ask staff to pull up the PowerPoints, but only very briefly and primarily for the purposes of the speakers that are joining us to bring you this informational item. This is your Vision for Success Spotlight, and we want to dedicate the largest portion of our presentation to a conversation and discussion about your local authority, your local direction to really guide statewide and federal advocacy as a part of this item. As you all know, the Chancellor's Office launched a student-centered listening tour late last year in October of 2021. We were joined by the President of the Student Senate, Gerardo Chavez, the President of the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges, Dolores Davison, in every single visit. And a number of you joined us as well to visit 7 different campuses. I want to thank Member Shabazian, Member Epstein, Vice President Costa, President Haynes, and Board Member Teresova for joining us for these tours. Internally, you know that Member Teresova went to every single visit. And so in a way, we kind of called it the Yulia Teresova tour. But I won't spend too much time on these slides because she did an incredible job this morning. And I will just say this in the first few slides. So if you could actually go to slide 7, I'm going to skip through some of the other slides because you already have this in your written item. There were 3 top needs that were identified by our students during the student-centered listening tour. The first was mental health and wellness support. And you took action this morning to make that a priority through your mental health resolution. The second was a need identified by students in every single stop defined as student basic needs. And you as a board have had extensive conversations about prioritizing total cost of attendance, financial aid reform, and then lastly, the third need, which was accessible modalities with quality resources. What you will find in slide 7 that I really want to point all of our focus to before I hand it over to President Gerardo Chavez is really what we can all do together. Here on this slide and what was published in your written public item is really what every single campus can be doing right now within existing resources, within their power. What we've learned in these tours is that often we ask and we encourage students to dream big, and we need to take our own advice and realize that transformational change is actually our superpower. We don't need new ideas. In fact, our students have highlighted in every single stop 5 student-centered actions that can be taken to address their needs. So if this pandemic has taught us anything, is that the strength of our system comes from resilient and innovative students and leaders. But in order to turn resiliency into action, we must make a conscious choice to believe that anything is possible. So in this slide, you see what our students are highlighting as what can really help them with urgency. You see on here that our students expect regular and systemic communication, particularly as we manage an endemic infection phase of this pandemic. They expect and they need action that removes barriers to financial aid eligibility. We need to be leveraging all of our funds to meet student basic needs with urgency. We need to leverage emergency flexibility and services. This board took action to codify some of the regulations that were taken in under emergency orders, particularly pass, no pass. And our students are urging us to make this information available at every campus to make sure that students are informed of any potential impacts, particularly as they seek to transfer or as they consider their financial aid packages. Our students are also asking that we continue to prioritize the student voice. Many of them talked about how campuses can empower them through local student surveys, through town halls. We also saw that our students urgently wanted employment, student ambassador programs, work study, work-based opportunities, and Member Shabazian has mentioned this several times. You also know that Chancellor Oakley shared this morning that there is additional funding for federal work study that is coming down, but that was a really incredible need that students said could urgently help them and help them persist in their education. Leveraging CVC OEI, the online educational flexibility, our students want to know that they can be re-engaged not only in the pandemic, but post-pandemic, and that we're thinking about this, that we're thinking about the role of online education as a tool for their success. They also highlighted that there is an incredible need to re-engage adult learners. There were lots of ideas that our students highlighted, and we saw one at one of the campuses, but re-engagement councils, particular onboarding programs for adult learners. And then we've added these two that are really the transition to this conversation that we hope to have with you today, which is this idea of how we can all work together to really amplify the student voice and what we've learned in these tours as a part of your 22-23 system budget request, and how we collectively as a system can continue to share the impact of California's community colleges with our state and federal legislators and the public. All of these ideas came from our students, and we'll spend the later portion of this conversation discussing how we can bring this change to scale and what part of our state and federal advocacy needs to bring on board new resources in order to make this a reality. So with that, I want to hand it over to two colleagues who have joined us. The president of the Student Senate for California Community Colleges, Gerardo Chavez, he will present first. And then President Dolores Davison of the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges. I mentioned that they joined us for every tour, and a key part of the work is about how we're all going to work collectively. And so today they'll be sharing with you what they heard and what they have taken away from this tour that they propose to bring to scale. Gerardo, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gonzalez, and good afternoon, Board of Governors members. My name is Gerardo Chavez, President of the Student Senate for California Community Colleges. And I would like to start with gratitude in extending an invitation for the Student Senate to join the Student Listening Tour in a time where engagement for our students and participation is very critical. We saw value in visiting students where they are and being able to start new conversations on how we can be of service for our students. So I'm very thankful for the opportunity from the Chancellor's Office. And today I'm going to be sharing a few things that we have learned as the Student Senate throughout our college visits. When we go to the next slide, please. We hear basic needs as the prominent conversation with our students. Basic needs in the terms of resources that will be addressing hunger, lack of student housing. But one thing that we have noticed is that the definition of basic needs is continuing to change. Before the pandemic, it was rare that we talked about technology, that we talked about bandwidth as part of basic needs. And the number one concern that our students had as we had a conversation with them was the accessibility to technology and accessibility to internet connection. And we heard the good and the bad. We heard about how the colleges were providing hotspots, were providing laptops for our students, and how that was instrumental in their academic success during the pandemic. But we also saw how visible the technology gap was during the pandemic. We heard multiple stories about students who were doing their homework on their phone or simply had to drop out of class because they did not have enough money to pay for their Wi-Fi. So those are just one of the narratives that we heard about basic needs. We also heard about the key role that our food pantries are playing within our campuses. Our campuses are institutions of learning, but with the pandemic, we have transformed our campuses into an institution of resources that is aiding our students, that is providing for them. So we heard about those food pantries, how they are being able to help them, how they really depend on those food pantries in order to bring food for themselves and food for their family. Another thing that we learned is that each college has their own narrative, and each student has their own narrative. And one of the things that I ask of the Board of Governors is to consider the individuality of each college and the individuality of the student experience. Not every student went through the same struggles during the pandemic. And I'm pretty sure that my colleague, President Davison, can agree that there's no cookie cutter solution coming from the state. And we must remain open to understanding what are the individual needs of our campuses. And that happens by having a conversation with our students. Engagement and outreach was critical for an equitable recovery. We heard about our students not being able to fully express their concerns at their campus. As the pandemic was going on, many of our students were saying, I failed this class because I didn't know that there was this resource. I didn't know that there was academic support. So we see the value of engaging our students, not just having a conversation, but engaging, reaching out to our students, going above and beyond to be able to understand the needs of our students. And that is a critical component of inequitable recovery, because when we have a conversation with our students, we are understanding their needs. Accessibility and resources outside of traditional business hours. That is the number one thing that came up from our non-traditional students. We must understand that the age gap is growing. We no longer serve 18, 19-year-olds. We are very fortunate that we're catering to 40-year-olds, 50, 60-year-olds. And many of those non-traditional students are full-time workers and don't go to school until 5 or 6 p.m. And by the time that they get to campus, everything's closed down. So we must remain vigilant about our accessibility to resources. And that's what we learned. And the last part is students need to be a part of the solution. Students are the expert of their own experiences, and we must be able to inject that into our decision-making process. And those are the things that we learn. And it really stirred a lot of conversations within the Student Senate that really gave us an insight on how we can re-engage our students and find innovative ways that we're able to further that narrative of what is an equitable recovery that works for all students. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we visited 7 colleges with the Chancellor's office, but we wanted to go beyond that. We wanted to, make our own college visits, have more time with our students. And as a result, we're very happy to announce that we visited over 25 colleges in the springtime and then also in the fall time. So within those college visits, we started thinking about ways that we can really focus into our student population. So we created what we're calling the Student Forum series, where we have a series each week focusing on one student population on one topic. So we started with basic needs, then non-traditional students, international students, student athletes, and so on. This week we are having one for undocumented students. And we saw value in bringing students from every area of our California Community College students to be able to share their own personal experience. And it goes back to understanding the individual needs of our students. The needs of our international students are completely different from the needs of our student athletes. And we need to be able to understand that, acknowledge that, and make progress. So that is what the SSCCC is doing. One thing that I asked from the Board of Governors is to continue having conversations with our students and being able to be able to understand the needs of today in order to be able to make the right decisions for our students. So that is what the SSCCC is doing on behalf of our students. And all of these ideas came from just having conversations with our students and understanding the need to creating a platform for their voice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Chavez. He's on the road today, so he did not turn on his camera, but very grateful that he could join us for this presentation. President Davison, go ahead.
Thank you so much. And first of all, I want to congratulate us for creating a new acronym, the SCLT. It's kind of like a BLT, but it's different. I also want to make it clear that President Chavez and I did not share slides ahead of time, but I'm going to say many of the same things. So next slide, please. So one of the things that we definitely heard from the students in terms of what they needed from faculty, administrators, classified professionals, and others was essentially much of what President Chavez talked about. I want to talk about the middle two there particularly. We've talked about the access piece. We've talked about the communication piece. The empathy and understanding piece is a more difficult one. And I will admit that I'm occasionally challenged, not for being empathetic, I'm a total empath, as many people will tell you, but because we walk a very fine line, especially those who teach in areas where students have to take boards or where they have to transfer or they have to do other things, of being too empathetic perhaps, or of being too concerned about whether we're providing enough requirements in our classes. And so that has been a real challenge because we recognize, and Myra Cruz, one of our former exec members, used to say that you can't pour from a cup that's empty. And so our students are at that point, and some of our faculty are at that point. So that need for empathy, that need for understanding is tremendously important. The flexibility piece that we heard about as well, not only flexibility with things like when classes are offered or when assignments are submitted, but even the most basic needs, bookstores that close at 4 o'clock when there are night classes that start at 6. Food pantries that are only open 2 days a week. And so a student who doesn't come those 2 days can't receive the food that he, she, they need for the remainder of the week. And so that flexibility from faculty, from administrations, from classified professionals, tremendously important. I will highlight that the mental health services was heartbreaking at a couple of the campuses, and the need for those, and then assistance with resources, having libraries open, having materials available, all of those pieces. Definitely something I heard and that we've conveyed in a variety of different ways to not only the executive committee, but out to the field since then as well. Next slide, please. What we're doing right now is pretty significant. We are talking about HyFlex and other modalities. What can we do to make classes more accessible to students? What can we do to provide those opportunities? Expanding communication to faculty about what they can do to help students. Ensuring, for example, that materials are available for faculty to put in their syllabi about what services are open and what's not open, what can be visited on campus and what can't. We've seen the changes to Title V around pass, no pass for greater flexibility, around the excused withdrawal and other pieces. The discussions around mental health on campuses and our statewide advocacy for expanding mental health offerings. There are multiple bills right now working their way through the legislature on mental health. Those need to be looked at, and mental health for our students, but also mental health services for our faculty, particularly our part-timers. And one of the pieces that really came to light during the pandemic was the fact that without traditional bookstores being open and without traditional libraries being open, the need for electronic resources and potentially more open educational resources digitally was tremendously important to enable students to be able to continue with their studies. And so our work around the OERI, around ensuring that not only are those materials available, but they are low cost or no cost to our students. The total cost of attendance is real, and we need to be focusing on that and ensuring that our students have the most options available to them in all of the venues that they go to. I think that's do I have one more slide? I know we chopped it up a little bit, so I'm double checking what I was said. I think that's it for me. But I want to thank the Chancellor's Office for the invitation. I want to thank the Student Senate for their collaboration. We are working with the Student Senate and the liaisons. We have liaisons to our meetings and going there. And we are doing a joint General Assembly in June with our faculty leaders and our student leaders to bring them all together and do a joint leadership institute. We are also presenting next month at the Student Senate's General Assembly, and we are having consistent communication between our students and with the SSCCC, with their president, with their executive director, and with their legislative advocates. And I'm very grateful to that. So a thank you to the Student Senate, to the Chancellor's Office, and a particular shout out to Andrea Reynolds, who was amazing putting all these tours together and kept me on the path where I was like, I can't find the parking map, and she would have it there for me. So thank you, Andrea, for everything that you did.
Thank you for your presentation, President Davison. Board members, I want to now transition us to the main part of our presentation and really just share that this really was an opportunity about how our office models how we can do student-centered design. We entered these campuses as researchers or as ethnographers, and it makes me really happy to see the alignment to the vision for success, the alignment from what our students shared and our faculty shared. The feedback was provided to our campuses. So I want to share with you what you see in the slides, what you saw in the item, the student-centered ideas, the local practices, the urgent work that our students need, that was shared with our campuses. It was done at every single campus, one-on-one with the CEO and the campus leaders. And now this presentation, this spotlight, was about being transparent about what we found and what needs to happen at the local level. But we want to shift now into your role. What is your role as a board? What can you do to bring change to scale? And for that, I'm going to ask our Executive Vice Chancellor Navarrete to finish off this presentation.
Thank you, Deputy Chancellor Gonzalez, and good afternoon, members of the board, President Haynes, Vice President Costa. I also want to reiterate a big thank you and a heartfelt appreciation for President Davison, President Chavez, for taking time to join us in these conversations that, as Dr. Gonzalez mentioned, was really to provide qualitative data to our culture here at the Chancellor's Office and within California Community Colleges to use data for evidence. And in this work, want to highlight that, we had these tours. So what happens next? Really, the next conversation is how do we bring change to scale? And what we learned is that it requires empowering action at all levels. And the campuses and the districts that really responded most effectively during this time had a great way of having an iterative process that started with students, hearing students, ensuring that they felt supported, that they had a sense of belonging, and that their needs were translating into actions and next steps for districts. For districts, they acted with urgency, with compassion, they were resilient, and looked at how do you understand student needs and barriers to have a recovery with equity. And so this in many ways is not anything new that's happening in our campuses, but the urgency and the compassion, to reiterate President Davison's point, really made this action student-centered. So at the board level and across boards at districts that are 73 districts, really the next key thing is championing practices and programs that can create the conditions for equitable success. And for our state leaders, it also means an opportunity to fund strategies that directly support student identified needs and invest in practices that can be brought to scale. So if we can bring the slides back up, straight to slide 18. And so we'll go back one more. We already, in the current budget that we have before us that is currently being implemented, we have a good foundation for this work. As you heard, basic needs centers are being established at every single one of our campuses. And it is something that the state legislature, our state leaders have funded to enable this important work. Why? Because students have said that they need this. Emergency grants have been issued and will continue to be available through various legislative changes, such as allowing lottery funds to continue to support emergency needs and other basic needs. Thanks to our governor and state leaders for listening to one of the requests that we made. was to allow federal stimulus funds to dismiss owed fees. And as of fall, 42 million in student fees had been dismissed. This is powerful as a way of re-engaging students. And you heard earlier, mental health services being established. Supports for justice involve students. In one of our conversations, we also had an opportunity to talk to students who were in a facility taking classes. And we heard a beautiful conversation with students that were justice involved, encouraging students at a campus to keep going, to be models for their students. It was powerful to see and hear how students respond, what they need, and how they can engage and be designers in their own education. Technology supports were highlighted throughout. You heard that from board member Yulia Tarasova, as well as President Gerardo. And among other great investments that are currently being implemented, culturally competent PD, other supports for faculty and staff, and zero textbook cost degrees, open educational resources, and many others. Next slide, please. And this year, in the 22-23 proposed budget, we also see further alignment and opportunities. We see that in transfer reform, faculty and staff support so that this work can continue and can continue to be aligned to what students told us that they need. Curricular pathways and common course numbering to simplify the education, that to remove the complexities that are unnecessary. An important investment in affordable student housing and hopefully more ahead. And then the need to secure technology so that learning can continue to be flexible and quality, not just in the classroom, but also in the supports that are provided outside the classroom that make it possible for post-traditional students to have access where they didn't have it before. And then resources directly for district operations so that they can continue to be student-centered institutions. Those are our opportunities ahead in this year. But let's go to the next slide. And as we start thinking about crafting a plan and imagining what 23 and 24 can look like in the next slide, there are three key areas that we heard often that came up in many conversations. One, again, is student mental health continues to be a major statewide need for our students. And though there is a $10 million ongoing investment, and we celebrate that for the first time we have ongoing resources, we know that in many parts of the state it may not be enough. And there is a lot of work ahead, but we have opportunities. And we also want to thank a bold leadership of a trifecta of great college champions with Assemblymember Medina, Senator Leyva, and Assemblymember McCarty. They're again bringing Cal Grants to the forefront and creating a structure, proposing a structure that can better serve community college students. This lays the groundwork for opportunities in future investments for increased award amounts directly for community college students. And one that really can happen locally at our campuses, at the state level, that you will hear us talk a lot more about in the coming months, is how do we encourage, promote, and incentivize flexible quality options for post-traditional learners so that we have schedules that are adaptive to the over 70% of working learners at our campuses, and recognize that they don't work out of luxury, they work out of necessity, and we must do everything possible to adapt to their schedules, or they quite frankly can't come back and truly engage in education. These are areas and opportunities of engagement that we hope that you'll encourage us as staff, as teams of partners with our districts, with our faculty and our student champions, that we bring forward in future proposals that we champion together. Next slide, please. I want to conclude with two final points. One is an observation that was also reiterated in a recent PPIC report titled "The Pandemic's Effect on Education." 2 points that they highlighted. One is that remote instruction is taking will play a much larger role in higher education than it ever has in the past, and that a new normal includes technology. It includes technology to provide greater access at hours that weren't available. It means that students can seek help by talking to someone through a Zoom call rather than having to drive to a campus park, try to schedule something. It means that they can get what they need in a better and faster way. It also means that we have an opportunity for programs and policy changes, including flexible scheduling and online student supports, again, not just in the classroom, but outside the classroom, and modalities of learning, and that helps students succeed. I'll leave you with this next slide with a quote from one of the students that we talked to at LA Valley College, is a male student who works full-time and is a part-time engineering student. And he shared that the pandemic has allowed him to make progress on his school, meaning he was able to take more classes than ever before. His faculty, professors were understanding. They made themselves available. Sometimes they posted lectures that allowed him to go back and understand concepts and see them over and over until he had full grasp of them. And it provided options for better balance of school and work. And so he shared that his biggest fear is that after the pandemic, that things would go back to the way that they were, and that he would not be able to continue to make progress the way that he had, and offered his advice to us, which was to ensure that whatever decisions are made about future course offerings, future supports, that they're always student-centered and they recognize what students may need in the years ahead to make progress. So want to end by encouraging us to not let this be the last time that we have this iterative process where we talk to students and we confirm or we hear their ideas. They're very creative. They know what works for them, and it's our opportunity ahead to hear them out and engage them and think about how that can be implemented at scale and across the state. Thank you very much. That concludes my update. Now turn it back to Deputy Chancellor Gonzalez, and happy to engage in questions.
President Haynes, we'll hand it back to you. I think you're muted still.
Sorry. We're gonna start with board comments and questions. Don't see any hands raised. Oh, I have one. Board Member Williams.
Thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I just wanted to acknowledge all of the great work that is going on. I feel like you all are really listening, and especially like the incorporation of the student input. And also wanted to acknowledge the work of Dr. Alvarado and all of the folks that are working on the basic needs, specifically related to textbooks and ZTC. So just thank you for your efforts. Considering what we heard today around student voices and the urgent local action, I just took note of the part that spoke about leveraging all funds to meet student basic needs as a real urgent matter. And I believe that this is an opportunity to amplify the need for the BOC to really continue to elevate OER, textbooks, and ZTE as a priority. In 2004, Governor Schwarzenegger signed into law the Williams Settlement Act. This is legislation that established standards around ensuring all California public school students will have textbooks and instructional materials, and that their schools would also be clean, safe, and also functioning. Under the Williams Act, the lowest performing schools in the state are targeted for additional oversight and resources. And as we know, many of these students come from low socioeconomic backgrounds. And when they come to community college, their economic situation generally just doesn't change just because they've become a community college student. College Board reports that between course materials and textbooks, students can expect to spend between $1,200 to $1,400 per academic year. And what I'm asking for is that the BOG and the Chancellor continue to prioritize basic needs and college affordability by really just working to accelerate the range of solutions and resources available to students to address the rising costs around textbooks and instructional material. And in short, what's being advocated is that books in any appropriate format be available to students now when they enroll in classes, and at minimum for general education and CTE courses, and just how do we get solutions for students today. I believe it's something that we can do within the existing resources. There are resources that are out there, and this is something that we're doing in my local district. We have a Textbook Plus program where students get the cost of their textbooks covered in a range of different formats. And it just would be great to see this extended across the state to all students. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Epstein and then Board Member Rawlings.
Thanks. First of all, I think this tour was really productive, and my hats off to Daisy and Lizette, who really drove this thing. And I thought the one I attended was really excellent and learned a lot. And I think the conclusions that that you came up with are really important. I think the mental health issue is significant. Clearly, the basic needs and what we need to do there, and also on the online education. I mean, I really believe that we've not done enough to push the system to strategically move to a much more aggressive online education program. That clearly was very beneficial to students. Is very beneficial to students who have difficulty coming to campus, which includes a lot of students. And I just think that should become an extremely high priority in our budgeting and in our the advice and guidance we give to the system. I also want to acknowledge the role played by the Academic Senate and the Student Senate in these. I thought that was great hearing from both of them. And just one last little piece of the basic needs. I read the article this week about how students were dropping out because they had small debts to their colleges. And the Chancellor acknowledged this in the beginning about how we're encouraging to use the federal money to forgive those debts. And I think that's also really important. And we had to look at ways, what other impediments are there where little, small amounts of money could relieve students of problems that prevent them from re-enrolling and staying in school. Thank you.
Member Rawlings.
Thank you. This is fantastic. I love going and visiting campuses myself, and as Board Member Epstein knows, we've done a number of those together, and I think this was brilliant. I think the outcomes of what you've brought back is really helpful. As someone who works a lot with non-traditional students, especially those that are older, coming in the evening hours and on weekends, those are the days that I support the campus, and I see a lot of these challenges in their lives, and it can kind of be like death by 1,000 cuts. It may not be one big thing that occurs in their lives, but just an accumulation of so many that really discourage them. And so the point I wanted to make here is how important it is that we get support to our local colleges that then can build the support systems that are right for their students, including all of the normal basic needs things. One point I would bring up, may be part of the state and federal legislative update, is the importance of and the role that base apportionment will play in some of this. As an example, one of the programs that I help lead is our laptop and internet loan programs to our students through our library. And in costing out what we expect the future need is going to be ongoing, it's between $2.5 and $3 million per year. That is money that comes from somewhere. Currently, we're using a lot of HERE funding for that. But as that sunsets, it now has to be institutionalized within the district. And $2 to $3 million pays for a lot of faculty and pays for a lot of classified. But we're using it to make sure that the students can access our staff and our faculty because they don't have internet and laptops to do the online education. And so where online may be the best tool for them and the best modality for them because of all of their life challenges that they have and commitments, enabling them to be able to do that is also important, but that takes funding. So there's all these moving pieces that fit together, but it's really making sure that we're taking a look at this holistically and giving the colleges the right support and tools to be able to fund it and support it the way that they need to and the way that they know their students will need.
Thank you for that. I want to make note of the time. It's about 4:06. We're supposed to be on our way down to board member reports. We're a little behind. Just making note of the time. Member Terrasova.
I just wanted to provide the concluding remarks in regards to this fantastic tour that happened this fall. So thank you, Deputy Chancellor Gonzalez, for sharing the lessons learned from our tour together with Student Senate and Academic Senate. This tour was necessary to reconnect with the students who were affected by the pandemic, but persevered through it. I would like to encourage people to watch the Chancellor's Office System webinar that I have participated together with SSCCC President Chavez and the student from San Diego Community College to learn more about the lessons. As we go into the state advocacy event in April, we need to make sure that we are elevating those student voices to secure the funding, to make the systematic changes through investing in universal student-centered design. Specifically, basic needs being center and front of the board's advocacy. It includes mental health support services that have been reiterated multiple times through today's meeting. It includes the College Grant modernization. It includes the accessibility that technology provides us to ensure success of the non-traditional students. The reality right now is that students have to go to 5 different agencies to tell their story. And with students returning back to campus, we have the real opportunity to close the current disconnect that we have had in the past between the available services and the advocacy we do daily. We need to work on integrating basic needs better with all the initiatives and projects, and the board needs to use their advocacy day to get clarity on the role of the basic needs and as a core function of serving students. Whether it means the purpose of higher education needs to evolve one day, but as a student, I can tell you right away that I don't see where the resource is coming from. I just know that I have a need for it. And the place where I'm most comfortable to go and ask for it is my own local college. So we clearly have a lot of work to do ahead of us this April as we engage in the conversations with legislature.
So thank you. We need a public comment.
The public comment period for item 6.2 is now open. Please use the raise hand feature to make a comment on this item. If you're calling into the meeting, press *9. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes. This item did not receive any written comments, and I will hand it over to Gary for hands.
We do have a few hands raised. Philip Kim Mickelson, you have control of your mic and can address the board.
Thank you. Good afternoon, President Haynes, members of the board, Chancellor Oakley, Deputy Chancellor Gonzalez, Executive Vice Chancellors Alvarado and Navarrete. My name is Philip Kim and I serve as CEO of the Michelson 20 Million Minds Foundation. For over a decade, we have worked to create a more equitable and accessible higher education system. I want to thank President Davison for her remarks and for elevating the student voice and demand for open educational resources, and Executive Vice Chancellor Navarrete for also touching on the potential of zero textbook cost pathways. The California Community College System is a national leader on textbook affordability, in part due to the success of the 2016 Zero Textbook Cost Degree program. The original $5 million ZTC program resulted in an 800% return on investment, served over 23,000 students, and saved them over $42 million. Students in ZTC courses experienced higher levels of passing grades and course completions. Pell Grant recipients and students from marginalized backgrounds experienced even higher benefits from these courses. And the system now has the opportunity to dramatically expand this impact. Last year, Governor Newsom addressed the usurious and abusive post-secondary publishing market and called on the state to disrupt the entire system nationwide by making a historic $115 million investment into ZTC degree programs. California has the opportunity to set an example for the entire country, and we already know that many states are watching this implementation very closely. But to do this requires identifying what made the first round of funding so successful and implementing lessons learned along the way. First, open educational resources were the backbone of the original program and a pivotal part of its success. The public investment should not go to further enrich the publishing oligopoly, but should maintain the focus on OER as the best option for sustainable, long-term success and honor the intended spirit of our state's historic investment. Second, we encourage the board to continue the practice of using competitive grants that have an emphasis on cross-system collaboration and sustainability for distributing these funds. Third, wherever and whenever possible, zero should mean zero. While low cost might be more accessible than what is currently in use, for the most vulnerable students, that cost will still likely be too high. And lastly, to truly understand the impact of this transformative investment in the ZTC program, we urge the system to consider adopting a strong data element within their system to track these metrics. I'd like to thank the board and the Chancellor's Office for your shared commitment and continued work to advance issues of affordability, and thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Next, we have Wendy Brill Winecoop. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Good afternoon, President Haynes, Vice President Costa, Chancellor Oakley, and members of the Board of Governors. I'm Wendy Brill Winecoop, President of the Faculty Association of the California Community Colleges. The Chancellor's Office Student-Centered Listening Tour was essential to understanding firsthand what our students truly need. As a system, we've spent much time and effort fulfilling mandates about removing barriers and clarifying the pathway, but not what students themselves have identified as their top priorities and concerns. As a system, we do need to focus on our efforts on supporting our students in health and wellness, student basic needs, and accessible learning modalities. As faculty, we hear every day what students need, and it is for this reason that FAC has sponsored recent legislation like Berman's special student basic needs bill, Arambula's county liaison bill, and we've advocated to increase money for student financial aid and mental health in the state budget. We look forward to partnering with system practitioners to support our students to meet their goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
President, there are no other hands raised.
Thank you for the presentation. And we're going to move on to item 6.3, which is the state and federal update. Vice Chancellor O'Brien is presenting on this item.
Thank you. Good afternoon, board members. David O'Brien, Vice Chancellor of Government Relations. And being conscious of the time, I'm going to go ahead and focus on just a few key items in this update, if that's okay. So let's skip to the next slide. Oh, and I want to note, Paul, we can stay on this slide. I do want to note that Vice Chancellor Dr. Aisha Lowe is available for one of the key items we'll be discussing in a few moments in case there are questions or further context needed, and I appreciate her availability. We are pleased to inform you that as has traditionally taken place in April, we are currently finalizing the planning for the 2022 Board of Governors Advocacy Day. As you can see from our screenshot here, in previous years, of course, the last 2 years during the pandemic, they have been held exclusively virtually. This year, we're hoping to try something a little bit new with something of a hybrid format. We encountered just a couple of sort of logistical questions to get over, one of which is that, the continued uncertainty around COVID and possible emergence of new variants or subvariants. The other of which had to do with the physical location of the legislature. For those of you that haven't been to downtown Sacramento recently, the annex portion of the state capitol building is being torn down and replaced with a new building. During that time, which is anticipated to take a few years, a new state office building across the street from the Secretary of State's office on O Street, which the Capitol staff sort of affectionately refer to as the swing space building, is housing all members of the, or most members of the legislature and their staff. However, due to the construction of this building, it's not necessarily conducive to large meetings of the kind we're used to on our advocacy days. So we're scheduling a very fun event. Please stay tuned for further details, but it's on Tuesday, April 19th. Apologies, that should have been on this slide. Tuesday, April 19th in the morning. We're kind of doing a mini block party, hoping to outside the Chancellor's office, where there'll be an opportunity for board members, Chancellor's office staff, as well as members of the legislature to come to us and see us, meet with us at the Chancellor's office, meet some of our students. We're really looking forward to it. It'll be very exciting. Like I said, it's kind of something new in terms of an advocacy day format. Traditionally, there's really only kind of been two kinds of advocacy. One is the pre-COVID, a bunch of people cram into a legislator's office and meet with them in a small in-person setting. And then during COVID, the virtual Zoom squares, everybody bounces from square to square and introduces one another format. We wanted to kind of try something new that enabled us to have some level of in-person interaction while still recognizing the need for safety. So again, more details are forthcoming. That's being planned now. I really want to thank our partners at the foundation, as well as all of our advocates and stakeholders for their support on Advocacy Day. All right, I'm going to go a little bit quickly here. Next slide, please. Not going to cover a whole lot of the bills. Most of them are covered in your written item, which is provided with the agenda. Please do let us know, though, if anything caught your eye and you have specific questions. Currently tracking over 200 bills, of which 77 are in the highest tier. We call that tier 1, meaning those are the ones that we analyze and engage with the most heavily. And on the next slide, I want to introduce you to our sponsored legislation. The Chancellor's Office is pleased to be sponsoring 2 pieces of legislation this year, one of which is a resolution similar to board resolutions. It's not a binding change to state law. The other of which is a Senate bill. Taking the resolution first, we did a lot of work last year, and I especially want to call out Assistant Vice Chancellor Linda Vasquez and the Government Relations team for her leadership and the work that our team has done with our colleagues here around Undocumented Student Action Week, which the board established several years ago and is an exciting annual event. And last year, we had the opportunity to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Assembly Bill 540, of course, California's kind of pioneering, one of the first of its kind in the nation, pieces of legislation that expanded access to higher education for eligible undocumented students. So we drafted and were pleased to sponsor a resolution by Senator Monique Limon, who was one of the legislature's great champions of undocumented students, recognizing last year's 20th anniversary of AB 540. And in a more substantive vein, we are expanding AB 540 eligibility for higher education for undocumented students in a very substantive way. So we are pleased to be sponsors of Senate Bill 1141, also by Senator Limon. And what this bill does essentially is it corrects an oversight in a previous piece of legislation called Senate Bill 68, that some of you may have heard of, that attempted to expand access for the AB 540, the in-state tuition, which is what AB 540 provides, if you recall. It allows eligible students to not be considered an out-of-state student if they lived in California for a certain period of time and went to high school here, regardless of their citizenship or immigration status. SB 68, several years ago, expanded that to adult learner students by saying you could, for the requirement to have a certain number of prior years education, you didn't have to all be high school. You could count up to 2 years of community college education, which really was a significant expansion to adult learner students looking to transfer to a 4-year institution, UC or CSU, and get a 4-year degree. However, that legislation, SB 68, specifically capped those students' enrollment in full-time credit courses at 2 years, while still requiring them to have 3 years of prior full-time attendance to qualify. And so in practice, what this has meant, according to our representatives throughout the system, our campus partners, is an increasing number of adult learner students who would otherwise qualify for this exemption, but find themselves having to take a 3rd year at their community college of non-credit courses, when they really don't need to, when they've done everything else, they've got their 2 years, they've got everything they need for their associate degree for transfer. So we are proposing to correct this oversight in Senate Bill 1141, make it so that a student who has 2 years full-time attendance, equivalent attendance, will qualify for that AB 540 exemption from non-resident tuition, meaning when they transfer to UC or CSU, they won't have to pay that out-of-state tuition rate, which I think most people know is much, much higher than the in-state rate. It's approximately 3 times higher at UC, for instance. So we're very, very grateful to Senator Limon's office for authoring this legislation that we're the sponsors of, and really looking forward to, yet again, California leading the way on expanding educational opportunities for students regardless of their immigration status. Let's go ahead and move, if we could, to slide 7, please. And I apologize, as I mentioned, just in the interest of time, if there's anything else folks would like to stop, go ahead and stop me at the end and we can go back. I believe slide 7 is the one that says AB 1705. Thank you. Maybe a different slide than the slides I have. So board members, you may recall at the prior board meeting, I think we were still in the tentative early stages of this, we discussed some legislation that we had been in conversations with Assembly Member Jackie Irwin's office about, that was intended to clean up and clarify the provisions of AB 705 around equitable placement. And as I never tire of telling people, the numbering of the bills is very intentional, and the legislature often intended to specifically call out or show a connection to a prior bill. So this year, Assemblymember Irwin is authoring Assembly Bill 1705. And what this bill does is it does a few things. It essentially, the intent here, we understand, is to clean up and strengthen AB 705 by clarifying that provisions related in AB 705 and the subsequent regulations that the board has approved concerning placement are meant to include enrollment as well. And also clarifying some of the potential ambiguities relating to some of the guidance the Chancellor's Office has issued and in the regulations the board has passed. This was something that's come up with some external stakeholder organizations in recent years, some potential ambiguity or lack of clarity between the intent of the statute and what's explicitly called out. And so we did initially work with Assemblymember Irwin's office on some suggestions for language for a bill that we're saying cleans up and clarifies AB 705. However, when the bill was originally introduced, there were a couple of provisions in there that based on discussions with our partners in Educational Services Unit, and I know Dr. Lowe is available for questions or additional context, that we did not feel we could support. One of which was a provision that required colleges to place and enroll by default all community college students into transfer level English, meaning that students, regardless of their program, regardless if they were in a short-term program like a workforce program, Board Member Tarasova, I'm thinking about our Sierra College tour and the students in that amazing 6-week engineering boot camp that we visited and hearing their stories. We had been in discussions with Assemblymember Irwin's office about this provision, and the fact that this was highly concerning and likely to actually present a barrier to students looking to get in a short-term program, the fact that all students were going to be now required by default to be placed and enrolled into transfer level English. Again, regardless of whether they had an intent to transfer and regardless of whether their program required transfer level English or not. We had some discussions with the Assemblymember's office about this provision. And as of last week, we understood that there had been a commitment to take some amendments to remove this provision, as well as a couple of other areas that we had concerns with from the bill, which was going to move us to a support position. And I'm going to all this detail because those of you that watched our consultation council meeting last week may have seen a different position on this slide. However, we received word late last week, late on Friday afternoon, in fact, that those amendments were not going to be made and that original language and some other provisions was going to stay in the bill. Therefore, we're not taking a support position at this time, and looking forward to working with Assemblymember Irwin's office and other stakeholders on areas of objection. I'm going to briefly just touch on the federal update very, very quickly. So can we skip ahead 2 slides, please? As you may have been following in the news, the U.S. Department of Education continues working on the process known as negotiated rulemaking, which is how new regulations or substantial amendments to prior regulations are promulgated at the federal level. And the one that the Chancellor's Office is probably most involved with and most paying attention to is around the famous gainful employment regulation, which was originally promulgated during the Obama administration as an attempt to provide some accountability specifically around for-profit institutions of higher education to ensure that students were receiving a quality education that was going to lead to a well-paying career in their field of study. That regulation was then substantially weakened by the Trump administration under Secretary DeVos, and the current department under Secretary Cardona has announced their intent to hopefully strengthen that regulation and bring it back in line to where it was under the Obama administration. So we're monitoring that very closely. Next slide, please. Very briefly, as Chancellor Oakley noted, the spending omnibus spending bill that the president signed last week contained, as noted, significant new funding increases for higher education, most notably a $400 increase to the maximum Pell Grant Award. And then I believe that's going to conclude my presentation. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off there. I do want to see if there are any questions, though, or if Dr. Lowe, if you're available, if you're interested in providing any additional context around the equitable placement issue, or Chancellor Oakley.
So thank you very much, Vice Chancellor O'Brien. Wanted to just provide some updates on where we are on implementation of AB 705, equitable placement and completion. As Chancellor Oakley mentioned in his opening remarks, there's a lot of information swirling publicly, and frankly, a lot of misinformation swirling. So just wanted to make sure the Board of Governors is aware of where we are. All right, so as we all know, AB 705 passed 4 years ago, and our system has made significant progress in opening up the doors for greater access to transfer level English and math courses, as well as greater success. But we still have quite a lot of work to do. So as we previously presented to this body, the Chancellor's Office released guidance in November of last year for every community college to submit an equitable placement and completion improvement plan by March 11th. So we are just getting those, and we'll begin that analysis process. But as we continue this work, we want to make sure that it is very clear that AB 705 and the implementation of AB 705 has not actually or effectively banned developmental education, but that instead our system is being required to prove the effectiveness of the use of developmental education, which I'm sure we would all agree is an appropriate best practice, right? We're simply being asked to engage in the cycle of continuous improvement, to research and evaluate our practices, and to discontinue practices that are proven ineffective. And so while we know there is over a decade of evidence that for the vast majority of our students, those developmental education courses were not effective in supporting students' progress and success, as our colleges continue to fully implement AB 705, there is still this window of opportunity for colleges to submit data and evidence where they can identify, either a particular program or group of students for whom that is the most effective beginning place for the beginning place within math and English. And we are open to receiving that and to having that evidence and information. And so just wanted to communicate those updates on where we are. Of course, the Chancellor's Office continues to ask colleges to share with us any and all evidence they have for the effective approaches they are using to help students to successfully complete those very important gateway courses. We want that evidence so that we can further disseminate that for the rest of the system. And we are committed to continuing to provide professional development and technical assistance to support our faculty and our colleges as they engage in what is really significant equity work for our system. So with that, I will turn it back to you, Vice Chancellor O'Brien, or to Chancellor Oakley, if you have any comments.
Just very briefly, just saying that I will be personally reaching out to Member Irwin and discussing this development with her directly so that she understands exactly what our concerns are.
Thank you. Is it time for board comments? Have you closed this out, Vice Chancellor O'Brien?
Yes, happy to take any comments or questions at this time.
All right, thank you. Then we have a hand raised with member Shavazian.
Thank you. And especially in light of what we've heard in the past hour of the importance of students participating in decision-making, I'd like to ask that we seek an amendment to AB 1705 to preserve student choice. AB 705 has helped us take some great steps in terms of accessibility to or access to transfer level English and math, and as a whole has increased throughput and also has increased students' confidence to be able to start in transfer level. The data that colleges have access to doesn't perfectly predict which path will be the best for individual students. And each student should have input into deciding what level they want to start with. Many students, as has been mentioned, many students have a goal of a certificate or a CTE degree that doesn't require transfer level English or math. And AB 1705 must not prohibit individual students the opportunity to enroll in pre-transfer level based on the student's right to determine for themselves what their goal is and how to achieve it.
So thank you for that comment. Any other board members' comments, questions? I don't see any. I would ask for public comment at this time.
The public comment period for item 6.3 is now open. Please use the raise hand feature to make a comment on this item. If you're calling into the meeting, press *9. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes. This item did not receive any written comments, and I will hand it over to Gary for hands raised.
We do have several hands raised. I will start with Evan Hawkins. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Thank you. Good afternoon, President Haynes, Vice President Costa, Chancellor Oakley, and members of the Board of Governors. I'm Evan Hawkins, Executive Director for the Faculty Association of California Community Colleges. FAC would like to comment on Assembly Bill 1705. We recognize that many students have benefited from the regulatory and guidance changes this board approved just a few years ago in response to AB 705. We acknowledge that many of our previous placement practices created lengthy remedial pathways that were a barrier for students. We are grateful the Chancellor's Office is carefully considering this new legislation, 1705. We'd like to share our perspective. While we understand there is a sense of urgency on this issue, many of our districts have made important progress. As districts continue to implement these changes and collect data to determine student success rates, we have concerns this new legislation could limit the Board of Governors' flexibility to update equitable placement policy to meet the needs of our diverse student populations and regulation rather than that being determined by law. The bill would have the system implement a one-size-fits-all legislative mandate that would likely have unintended consequences from our perspective. We believe that a one-size-fits-all approach is the exact opposite of an equitable practice. FAC has not taken a position on this bill at this time on AB 1705. However, we do have concerns about the bill. We believe there's a difference between placing and enrolling students in transfer level courses and eliminating pre-transfer courses at our colleges. For example, in response to the Chancellor's Office's November 2021 equitable placement memo, many of our districts are no longer offering any pre-transfer level courses in math and English, although the statute doesn't require this. Students should have a choice and not be mandated and limited in their education. FAC has advocated for an amendment that protects pre-transfer for those students who choose a path other than transfer. Many of our students are pursuing a CTE certificate and often need access to skills that are not offered in the transfer level courses. Furthermore, while we understand the Chancellor's Office has limited bandwidth, if the office is unable to collect full data and that's unable to be added into the legislation, including enrollment before census data, colleges may not have the full scope of information needed to adjust and meet the needs of each student that enrolls at their college. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Libby Cook. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Thank you. Good afternoon, or heading into evening. Chancellor Oakley, Deputy Chancellor Gonzalez, Vice Chancellors, President Haynes, and Board of Governors. My name is Libby Cook, Interim President-elect for the California Community College Extended Opportunity Programs and Services Association. And I wanted to share today that our board has significant concerns regarding SB 885. As you know, Next Up, as well as CARE, are housed within EOPS. Therefore, CARE and Next Up students are also EOPS students. In fact, a Next Up student receives EOPS over and above supports and services before they receive the above and beyond Next Up supports and services. The unit reduction included in the bill would significantly undermine the foundational design and expectations of EOPS, as Title V EOPS regulations state that a student must be enrolled full-time when accepted into the EOPS program. This decision to reduce the Next Up unit minimum beyond the existing and already reduced 9-unit requirement seems to be counterintuitive to the Chancellor's Office's 2020 Next Up legislative report, which stated in its outcome data that, quote, students overwhelmingly reported that the program is supporting their academic progress and having significant impact on their success, end quote. Additionally, programs such as Chafee carry a unit minimum for students to access services. Fewer units equate to less unmet need, which means less financial aid. This means Next Up has less room to financially help a student during their extended time at a California community college. EOPS, including CARE and Next Up, is fully dedicated to supporting our academically, educationally, and financially disadvantaged students. We appreciate the legislature's and the Board of Governors' efforts to put student needs first, but the unit reduction portion of SB 885 would adversely impact our ability to effectively serve and support our students. Thank you for providing space to voice our concerns.
Thank you.
Next, we have Orani Lemony Persert. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Yes, thank you. My name is Orani Lemony Persert, I teach ESL, and also I serve as the faculty union president for American River College. I would like to urge the board to please ask for amendments to AB 705. I really appreciate what board member Roy said, that students need to have choices and need to have options. A lot of our students are working adults who are here at our community colleges to improve their skills or basic knowledge in a certain subject, to improve their wages so that they can have a wage that is beyond basic and is livable. And also in terms of the way the bill language is now, my understanding is that students who enroll in college level math and English classes will not be able to go to a class that support them when they find out that they need much more than just a co-requisite or just more than just tutoring. Let's be honest. A lot of our students are from this, underserved communities, and they do not have the preparation that they need to succeed in college level classes. We need to make sure that we enable them to succeed. And in order to do that, they should be able to say, if they find a college level math or English class too difficult, beyond their time, the time that they can commit to getting tutoring or beyond the need that they have, then they can go back, they can go to a pre-college math or English class. I urge you to please request to amend the language in AB 705. Thank you so much for this opportunity to make a comment.
Thank you.
Next, the username is VPLA Prasad. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Good evening, board members. My name is Jasmine Prasad, the VP of Legislative Affairs for the Student Senate for California Community Colleges, the official voice for all community college students. And I would like to note that SSCCC has taken a stance of strong support for AB 1705 because it hasn't been proven with the remedial classes helping students. A lot of them are in the minority groups, such as myself, who was forced into these remedial classes and were not beneficial for me. It took about a semester long to petition out, and the same thing is happening to many students across the state. And this is why we need cleanup language for AB 1705. And so we are in strong support of that bill. And I also want to know we are in strong support of AB 885 or SB 885 pertaining to the foster youth, because many of our students are in the underrepresented category, and for those of them do end up dropping out of the full-time units just because with their struggles as being a foster youth student, they can't take that many courses, and a lot of them have stress to the next up program that they do unenroll, which takes away from their financial aid because they lose it, and it's hard to obtain that the following year. So this is why we're in agreement with the low credit amount, so those students can still qualify for the Next Up program as well as receive the same beneficial resources as every other student. Thank you.
Thank you.
President Haynes, we have no more hands raised at this time.
Thank you for that, and thank you for the comments that the public made on these issues. We're almost toward the end. We have 6.4, which is the compliance with the 50% law, and we have Executive Vice Chancellor Navarrete presenting on this item.
Thank you, members of the board. Lizette Navarrete here for, as mentioned, item 6.4. Every year we bring to you the implementation and potential actions on the 50% law. Let me provide some initial context and background on what it is first before I go into this year's update. The law known as the 50% law, it's in Education Code 84362, was established in 1961 when community colleges were part of K-14 education. It has was also enacted before collective bargaining, before various other key reforms, and before the ubiquitous presence of technology. Specifically, the law states that the current expense of education, that 50% of it must be spent on salaries of classroom instructors, and just on that, and there's clear definitions on where those are. Every year, the board receives an update on implementation. This year, we have 3 districts that have not met the 50% law. As part of our role in monitoring implementation, we've asked each of those districts to provide information as to why and any of their actions to remedy it. I won't go into extensive details due to time, but we did provide information in your digest that shares details as to their reasoning and actions moving forward. The 3 districts, Marin, Napa, and San Mateo Community College districts, do not receive a state apportionment for funding, as they are fully community supported through local enrollment fees and property taxes. Consequently, the Chancellor's Office cannot withhold apportionment funds as defined in the law. And so we are just bringing this to you as an update. No action is necessary. We've also provided an attachment that shows you where all of our districts are with regards to the 50% law. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you, board members.
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for the brevity. I see one hand raised of our board members, Board Member Shabazian.
Just wanted to ask, I understand that we need to report this to the legislature, how our districts are doing. We didn't see anything about Calbright in there. Can you just address that?
Yes, currently Calbright is in a transition period, and so they do seek a waiver, and so that is one of the things that provided as stated in legislation and in various intent. We do fully plan to transition to all various rules that apply to all community colleges, so that something that in future years we'll likely see, but not at this time, as they're still in transition and do not receive a state apportionment through FTES.
Are there other questions from our board members? Okay, then we're going to proceed to public comment.
The public comment period for item 6.4 is now open. Please use the raise hand feature to make a comment on this item. If you're calling into the meeting, press *9. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes. This item did not receive any written comments, and I will hand it over to Gary for hands raised.
We do have several hands raised. Let's start with Jim Mailer. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Thank you, Jim Mailer, still president of the Community College Council of the CFT. And I wanted to point out regarding this 50% law and where it is in the education code, as Lizette mentioned, it's codified in 84362. It is the case that those 3 districts don't receive general apportionment monies, but they still do receive some monies from the state. And I think the intent of this statute, which although it may have existed from the 60s when community colleges started, actually existed in K-12 long before that. The intent is to ensure that at least 50% of funds used in a school district are spent for not just instructional salaries, but classroom-related salaries and classroom-related expenditures. And the fact that 3 of our wealthiest districts in the state are basically flaunting this law by not following the 50% rule and not even applying for an exemption, I think is noteworthy, to say the least. Education Code 84362, if you read down to section H, says the Board of Governors shall, not may, but the Board of Governors shall enforce the requirements prescribed by this section and may adapt necessary rules and regulations to that end. So it's within the power of the Board of Governors to ensure compliance with this section of Ed Code, even for those districts that receive absolutely no money from general apportionment. They receive other state monies, and there are other things that the Board of Governors could do, some other fines they could put in place, other penalties the Board of Governors could implement in order to ensure compliance with this statute, which was the intent of the legislature and has been for many, many, many years. So I would implore the board to seek some alternative ways to bring these districts into compliance and to enforce the statute as originally was intended. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Evan Hawkins. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Thank you. Good afternoon again, President Haynes, Vice President Costa, Chancellor Oakley, and members of the board. I'm Evan Hawkins, Executive Director for FAC. Jim touched on a lot of what I was going to, so in the interest of time, I'll just say a couple of things. We do acknowledge that there are ongoing conversations about tweaking the 50% law, and certainly we want to be engaged in those. We had a good conversation about that at Consultation Council, but we still believe that the intention of the law remains critically important, to Jim's point. And we do understand there's limits to its enforcement, but we do believe that it's vital the Chancellor's Office continues to hold all districts accountable for complying with the 50% law. Investing 50% of our budgets in instruction is always meant to be a floor and not a ceiling. However, this percentage has become a ceiling, and it impacts our ability to have the resources necessary to educate students in the classroom. Thank you.
Next, we have Joanna Schilling. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Thank you very much, and good evening, President Haynes, Chancellor Oakley, invited guests, and members of the board. I'm Joanna Schilling, president of Cypress College, and I'm representing the CEO board at this meeting today. I've been aware it's been a long day, so I'll try to be brief. And although item 6.4 before you today is to review those colleges out of compliance with the 50% law, I would like to address how the focus on compliance is obfuscating the many ways this dated law has hampered our ability to fully serve students in all the ways that has been thoroughly discussed during today's meeting. The pandemic has again illuminated how some of these dated but well-intended laws are now impeding the mission of community colleges. As Vice Chancellor Navarrete just updated you, this legislation was created in 1961 when most community colleges were part of local K-14 districts. So I won't go over the history that she so eloquently provided you with this background, but now we find ourselves in a dramatically new world of education. As our enrollment has declined and as we address needed changes in equitably serving students to meet the vision for success, we are not sufficiently adapting to meeting the needs of our underserved populations. The 50% law unintentionally contributes to this slow adaptation in addressing many of the important needs you have been discussing at today's meeting. The Board of Governors has challenged us to re-engage with our students that we have lost during the pandemic. And we just heard from Dr. Davidson and Vice Chancellor Navarrete to reimagine a more high-flex learning environment to meet student enrollment needs. Yet most of the critical spending for personnel equipment, learning support, and basic needs required for this new environment does not even count as part of the 50% law allowable expenditures. For example, general and specialized counselors for historically underserved populations do not align with the 50% law, nor do basic needs for food, housing, and the all-important mental health services mentioned by so many speakers today, nor are equipment expenditures on technology, high-flex classroom equipment, learning management systems, proctoring software, or staffing for instructional designers, lab techs, distance education tech support, or tutors. All of these critical needs fall under expenditures that would make a college out of compliance with the 50% law if these costs exceeded 50% of our fund. The categorical funding in support of EOPS, CalWORKs, or DSPS students is also not included in the 50% law. Marketing, recruitment, retention of students who enroll in our colleges are also not currently part of this law's acceptable expenditures. These non-compliant costs are the critical investments needed now and will continue to be needed in this new post-pandemic world.
That is your 3-minute time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Monica Malamed. You have control of your mic and can address the board.
Good afternoon, President Haynes, Chancellor Oakley, members of the board. My name is Monica Malamud, and I teach Spanish at Cañada College. And I am the president of AFT 93, excuse me, the San Mateo Community College Federation of Teachers. Our district, the San Mateo County Community College District, has been moving further and further away from the 50% since it first did in the academic year 2015-2016. And it keeps getting away from the 50% to the point that right now we are at about 40% only. Now, our district maintains that reasons for these are that its mission and strategic plan aligns with a vision for success, and that its spending reflects services its students need. And I do agree that there are many worthy services, and actually the previous speaker mentioned many of those. However, in terms of salaries, the district claims that the faculty salaries are higher than other colleges in the region and among the highest in the state. I would like to point out that since our district became basic aid in 2009 until for 10 years, the revenues in my district have increased by 83%. In the same time period, the average salaries of chancellor and vice chancellors have increased by 90%. However, the faculty salaries have increased on average by 27.5% over the same period of time. If we look at the data bank for the chancellor's office, 2020 numbers, the average academic administrator salaries for the San Mateo district, they rank second in the state. However, looking at the same set of data, the full-time faculty rank 31st in the state. So that's a very significant difference. Not only have the salaries of administrators in our district increased much more than faculty salaries have since we become community funded, but also the percentage of administrators have increased significantly. There has been, over a period of about 6-7 years, there's been an increase of 55% in headcount of administrators versus 40% in the faculty ranks.
30 seconds remaining.
Okay, in the remaining time, I would like to address the fourth claim that our district makes, and that is that they provide uncommon benefits. Among the uncommon benefits, the first one is housing, faculty housing. There are actually 104 units of housing, and those units are allocated between faculty and staff. However, they have also been assigned to some administrators. But just to put it in context, even if 50 units were allocated for faculty, we have around 900 faculty in our district. So less than 5% of our faculty can actually take advantage of this benefit. I will make my last point.
That is your
Tuition
3-minute
reimbursement.
So thank you for your comments.
President Haynes, there are no other hands raised at this time.
Thank you. I'm sorry we had to cut folks off, but we're trying to stick to at least 3 minutes. Our next item, 6.5, we are moving to the May agenda. Am I correct? Okay, perfect. Then we're down to contracts and grants approved by the board president, and we have Deputy Chancellor Gonzalez presenting on this item.
Thank you, board members. This item provides you publicly an update. This is an informational item that informs you that on February 7th of 2022, President Haynes used the authority provided to the board president under section 318 in order to deploy resources to community college districts working to implement competency-based education associate's degree. Happy to take any questions that you may have at this time.
Do you have any questions from our board? I don't see any. Are there any public comments?
The public comment period for item 6.5 is now open. Please use the raise hand feature to make a comment on this item. If you're calling to the meeting, press *9. You have a maximum of 3 minutes. This item did not receive any written comments and there are no hands raised.
Thank you. Then we are down to 6.7, which are board member reports. Board members, you can go at it. We have about 16 board members. Let's hope we can keep it really short. I see Vice President Costa with her hand raised.
Mine is super short. I just want to take this opportunity to congratulate you, President Haynes, Board Member Rawlings, and Board Member Grande on your reappointment to our board. I'm thrilled that you're going to continue to serve with us.
Thank you so much. Are there other board member Shabazian?
If I could just briefly say, this meeting was a reminder to me of the value of all the different experiences that we on the board have and bring to this. And on the district election map changes, that's an area where I am learning, but a lot of you have a lot of experience with that and know what things can go wrong and what to look for. And I really value the input, and especially President Haynes, your experience in looking at the analysis and that this can have on demographic representation. So today was an inspiring view of how we all work together.
I appreciate those comments. Thank you. Are there other board member reports? All right, seeing none, then we are down to public forum. Are there any?
President Haynes,
Yes.
I did see that member Tarasova had put her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up. Board member Tarasova.
I promise is just one sentence. I just wanted to express my thankfulness to the board to support the mental health resolution that we had today. All students are extremely grateful for that.
Very good. Thank you. With that, we are down to public forum. Any public comments at this point?
Public forum is now open. Please use the raise hand feature to make a comment to the board. If you're calling into the meeting, press *9 and comments, and I will hand it over to you, Gary, for hands raised.
We do have one hand raised at this time. Jim Bach, you have control of the mic and can address the board.
Good afternoon, President Haynes, Board of Governors, and Chancellor Oakley. My name is Jim Bach, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Peace Officers Research Association of California, or PORAC. We represent 75,000 public safety members and 940 public safety associations. More specifically, I am speaking as the chairman of PORAC's Specialized Police Association Coalition, or SPAC. That's a committee within PORAC that was created to help address the interests of thousands of highly trained specialized law enforcement personnel, including those that are currently serving at community college campuses. I truly appreciate your efforts to improve public safety on campuses through the campus climate and public safety regulations. As a community college police officer and a representative through SPAC of nearly every community college police officer, I fully understand the need for our students to feel safe and, more importantly, be safe. It is imperative that we strive to provide the safest educational environment possible in order for our students to succeed and achieve their educational and life goals. California has the greatest police training in the nation, with other states trying to emulate the amazing work that our peace officer standards and training has accomplished. In addition, police officers who work for community colleges are required by law to attend specific training over and above standard police training in order to work at the campuses we love. California has also implemented first in the nation laws to address use of force, de-escalation, training, and transparency. As community college police officers, we take great pride in successfully providing community-oriented policing on a daily basis. We regularly engage our students with the guardian mentality, as was mentioned in the report, yet understand that there are those very rare times when we must become warriors to ensure our students and staff remain safe in the face of adversity. I would like to applaud the wisdom of the Chancellor and the Board of Governors to slow this process. As others have mentioned today, it is absolutely essential to gather facts, information, and data sets completely and responsibly to ensure that our students receive the greatest level of service. We hope that moving forward, PORAC and SPAC can be used as a valuable resource to assist in ensuring that the safety of our students and staff remains paramount and in line. Okay, and in line with the vision for success. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. So we're now at the point of adjournment. What I do want to say, I want to congratulate my two colleagues that were reappointed along with me. That's Jolina Grande and Bill Rawlings. I am excited about this journey that we are all taking together. I know there's going to be times we're going to have to buckle up. So buckle up. But what I would say in closing, we are doing the right work. I have no doubt that our vision for success and the values that we aspire to on this board is going in the right direction on behalf of our students. And so I want to thank you. And it's only 5:03, folks. Have a wonderful evening. We are now adjourned.
Thank you so much for joining us. This concludes the meeting of the Board of Governors.